IVM.
Sometimes it feels like all the weight of the world has fallen onto my shoulders, and it usually happens on my downtime while I'm enjoying a nice game of cricket. It's like my family realizes that I'm watching cricket and just rush to ruin it for me then. My mom will come in ranting about some problem with the neighbors. My wife will come in shouting about how we need to redo our kitchen, plus also some problem with the neighbors. And my daughter will come in angry at me because the color of the new car we bought is not what she had wanted, which is apparently the biggest crime a father can commit. Plus, of course, some problem with the neighbors. If only things could be just the same, even if something were to happen to me. Unless www.hdfclife.com, select, done. Things aren't so bad after all. Live calm. With HDFC Life, click to protect life. The Life Protect option protects your family from financial uncertainty. Visit hdfclife.com to know more and for terms and conditions.
Welcome to a brand new episode of Think Fast, where this week we're actually planning to think and be fast. Normally, I don't think, I think, and Sujita goes faster than I do. But this week we're shaking things up a little bit, shaking up the format, and we're trying to go ASAP and right away, but rapid, but yet rowdy. And I'm trying to think of more analogies, but that is just stretching this conversation.
Varun,
So, how was your week, Wayne?
Yes, you really are. I mean, for a show called Think Fast, we're pretty slow. I got to say. I know, but I'm excited about testing out this new format because that means we'll have to read fewer articles and do lesser research and be less accountable. And I'm all up for that, especially with long weeks. My week, how was my week, man? Pretty exhausting. Like, there's just a lot going on. Not like in a good way, because, I think people have very conveniently and happily forgotten about COVID. The world seems to be moving along. What about you, man? Did you buy Zomato stock, by the way?
No, I did not buy Zomato stock.
So you're not dying of heartburn?
I'm not dying of any heartburn. I do want to get my hands on LIC stock though, but I don't know if I'll be able to get an allocation. It's one of those companies where like you just want to I don't know why, you just want to have LIC. I have SBI stock in full disclosure. I did buy that when that came out. So I'm a little old school in the way I invest. I've realized I like to go for the old guns and not necessarily for the new and cool.
Know you're turning 40 in now 5.5 months, 6 months. Remind me of the count again.
6 months. 6 months. I'm looking forward to it actually. I've heard 40s are the new 20s or the new 12s, whichever works. What are we talking about this week? What are you talking about this week?
So I'm going to be covering 3 topics, guys, and I'm going to be fast because, I haven't dug into them as much as I usually do, but we'll be talking about Disney Hotstar's subscription bumper that they've had. I'll also be covering Gehraiya and all the, flack that they seem to be getting all across, the Twitterverse plus Instagramverse. I've seen the movie, I didn't mind it, but we'll chat about that. And finally, Cult Fit and Mama Earth have been making a couple of acquisitions. Mama Earth expanding into their strategy of house of brands through their acquisition of Be Blunt, and Cult Fit, of course, acquired Gold's Gym. So those are the 3 topics that I'll be covering. What about you, man? What about you?
This is an interesting piece where Joe invested in Glance, and Glance in many ways is one of the largest ad platforms. After you look at Google, Facebook, etc., they come in I think they come at number 4, number 5. They come in the top 5. I know that for sure. And so it's interesting to see that they've invested into Glance. It's primarily Android, but it comes in the lock screen where the ads kind of show up. So it's interesting, and Glance has been expanding a lot. So I'm going to dig into that one a little bit. There's also in my love for the metaverse as it's been going on these days, we're going to go into the Poojaverse. That is not me creating metaverse for Pooja, my wife. This is Poojaverse by Pooja Entertainment, the guys behind all the number 1 movies, all the hero number 1, Jodi number 1, all the number 1s. So I'm digging to that. Like Bollywood is entering the metaverse. I'm waiting for Bhai to start the Bhaiverse. That's what I will want to go check out. And the last one, me being the Dwayne Johnson fanboy that I am, there was a very interesting thread about how he's kind of really pushed Terramana Tequila, his tequila company, to being the fastest growing tequila brand of all time. So great thread, so much insight as to how you can kind of build a brand the way he has. And so I'm going to dig into that a little bit. So those are my 3 picks for this week. And yes, and we have some interesting recommendations to round things off. New format, rapid and firing away, if that's the way to call it. Woohoo! But before we go rapid and we fire away, we're going to take a break because advertising pays the bills. If we have ads, I think we do. Do we have ads? Let's take a break
We
and
have
figure
one
it
ad.
out. We have one
Yes.
ad. Yes, amazing. Have you ever wondered where the business world is headed? How the ways in which we create, market, and sell to consumers will evolve? Or if we'll ever go back to wearing pants while working? For answers to all of this and more, tune into Advertising is Dead with me, Varun Dugirala. Every Tuesday, as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond. You can catch all episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IBM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from. Welcome back to Think Fast, where we're trying something new this week. We're trying to go rapider and faster and thinkier and everything else this week. So I'm going to start off by asking you, Suchita, what is you mentioned your first one was Disney and Hotstar. So let's kick off with that one.
Yes. So, ladies and gents, just a couple of data points to get us started. So, Disney and Hotstar's subscriber base has swelled to 45.9 million with an addition of about 2.6 million subscribers in Q1. Overall, Disney's subscriber base has grown to 129.8 million from 118 million in the trailing quarter. Of course, Disney Plus Hotstar is available across India, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. And I think what has obviously made Disney and Hotstar's growth fairly interesting is if our listeners remember, we discussed Netflix and their slowdown in subscribers and subscriptions. In fact, Reed Hastings alluded to it himself in a quarterly earnings call. So Hotstar seems to really be on the rise. Of course, the big sort of sword sort of looming over their heads is what is going to happen with the IPL tournament, which is going to be up for grabs in the next couple of weeks. And we also spoke about Viacom getting Uday Shankar back, focusing on their digital efforts, Reliance and Jio, backing them. And of course, now things are going to heat up for the IPL. So before we get into all things Disney and Hotstar, Varun, if I had to ask you, right, what do you think has been Hotstar's secret sauce or like secret of success in India? Because let's be honest, their tech isn't the best. I mean, they seem to be improving quarter on quarter, but their programming seems to really have, caught a sweet spot with folks.
Yeah. So I think it's primarily IPL, to be honest. I feel that's the biggest drive why people do subscribe. That's one of the main things I watch on Hotstar, and I'm counting myself as like what I see people watching on Hotstar largely. While there are lots of shows people go to, a lot of their shows have been catching up. Like Arya was a great show. I haven't seen season 2, and they've also gotten a bunch of movie premieres that have done well for them, I'm guessing. But I still largely think it's sports, right? Everything from kabaddi, and kabaddi obviously also one more interesting insight. Sometime back we had I'd gotten a couple of guys onto Advertising Instead who were talking about how kabaddi is actually very high in viewership. We don't give that
That's
sport
super
enough credit
interesting.
for how much it drives traffic onto Disney Plus. So that's another one. Although it's mixed of Star Sports on TV and Disney Plus, but it's still going to be the IPL. That's going to be the clincher for them. But broadly, if I look at it beyond that, I feel it's also the archives of what Disney has, right? I think most parents have, I think globally, and I think that goes for India as well, have a Disney Plus connection because you have all the Disney movies there. They also do a lot of like shorter ones for Disney only, and some really like for parents type things. They will literally like, take a character from an animated movie and just have something happen in loop for like an hour, which has no story relevance per se, but it's just great to put in front of a toddler. So they've done a lot of smart things like that. I think the archives really work. Like I honestly just watch the Marvel and the Star Wars shows on Hotstar apart from the IPL. I don't necessarily watch anything else. But I think that's the thing. It's going to be the IPL is going to be the clincher. I think everything else kind of will follow, but I don't know. Reliance, Uday Shankar, and now they've gotten a lot of money in. That's going to be the tricky one.
Yeah, I do think what Hotstar definitely has done, Disney Plus Hotstar, what they've definitely done is really like double down on their local content focus. And I think they've been like, steps ahead compared to at least any of the other competitors, right? You obviously see Sony Live now make a semi attempt with their originals, Rocket Man, Rocket Boys. What was it called?
Rocket Boys. Actually, Sony Liv's actually been quite good. They had Scam, which did really well, and now they got Rocket Boys. So they've had a few. Sony's actually been doing decent work there. But Hotstar also, like, the problem in Hotstar, it's so cluttered with so many things, you can't find most of them half the time. I think that's a big problem there.
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely like discovery is a big issue because, they've got like a bunch of like the HBO portfolio, if I'm not mistaken, rolling into all things Hotstar.
Which will move out, by the way.
Ooh,
because HBO
really?
Max
How
is
come?
launching in India. HBO Max is launching in India.
Oh, shit.
From the grapevine, what I've heard is because I've worked in the media circles, they
Mhm.
have been hiring teams. People have started to sit in like whatever work together in office spaces, etc. So HBO Max launching very soon. So HBO will go away from Hotstar as well.
How interesting. But I wonder what the strategy over there is, because they will really have to build up a lot of like very unique local
Mm.
regional content in order for them to
Yeah.
strike a chord over here,
Yeah.
which I mean, can't doubt the HBO guys to do,
Yeah.
given,
Yeah.
the kind of like shows that they've been able to pull off. And I think that that's been like HBO's
Yeah.
niche, right? Where they don't have scale.
You've seen what Lionsgate Play, which is like very tiny in terms of an OTT, primarily has a few movies and shows and stuff.
I
They've
haven't
bundled
come
themselves
across
up
this.
with
Hmm.
they've actually bundled themselves with a lot of things, right? So suddenly you get a subscription to like through Amazon Prime, you can actually watch Lionsgate Play. Through
Hmm.
Apple TV Plus, you can get it through Android TV. So I have a feeling HBO might go that route, because I don't know. Like HBO traditionally never goes scale anywhere in the world, but this is India. People have to do things differently here.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this will last if they don't keep the IPL. I don't think it will last. I think that's the main clincher.
I mean,
I
it
watch
seems like
cricket
they're
only on Hotstar.
Yeah, it seems like they're betting on it though, because
Mm.
Disney's CEO Bob Chapek said that local content that they're developing, including the library content from its own brands, Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, Nat Geo, will mitigate the impact if they don't win the IPL auction.
Mm.
And they apparently add close to about 18,000 hours of original programming every single year. And, unlike I wouldn't say unlike Netflix, but they seem to be definitely taking India much more seriously, than otherwise. What's
Yeah.
also interesting about this, we can get to the next topic, but I think what's also interesting about this is the ARPU. So the average revenue per user of a subscriber has grown. So
Mm.
if I'm not mistaken, I think the ARPU in the previous quarter was 79 rupees or something, and now it's gone up to about $100. So they're actually being able to make more, per user, which could be a combination of multiple different factors. One, I think their pricing strategy has been pretty interesting.
Mm.
What Netflix is doing now, I think Hotstar was pretty early on to the game,
Yeah.
much earlier. So Disney plus Hotstar, the stack definitely has a better understanding of what is it that India wants, what is it that India like watches, and they
Yeah.
seem to be giving it to us on a platter. So definitely bullish on what they're able to do, even outside of whether or not they get the IPL bid.
Yeah. I still feel. I think this landscape will change entirely after the Viacom thing
Hmm.
happens. I am very bullish on that one. But I think it's good to get a shake up in the market. And I'm a media junkie anyway, so I'm excited about it.
Keep
Lots of
everyone on their
masala
toes.
coming.
Yes.
Speaking of masala, Jio's invested into Glance. Now, Glance, just kind of looking at it, Jio's invested $200 million into Glance, which is the popular lock screen tool in smartphones where you actually get, a bunch of content, ads, and all that stuff there. The investment will value Glance at about 1.7 billion to 1.8 post money. But what's interesting here is that this obviously kind of came through founder Naveen Tiwari and everybody else, and they've been acquiring and building a lot of partnerships lately. Roposo became a part of their piece. They did a tie-up with Collective Artist Network to launch Glance Collective. So they've been
Yeah.
building this entire piece, almost collection of brands and properties together. So this
Hmm.
investment with Jio, I think, really helps, because especially when you are, you're building off the lock screen of phones,
Yeah.
and then Jio invests into you. I think it's a bit of a win-win for them, especially because they want to expand to other markets outside of Asia. So
Yeah.
might be an interesting time for them to do this as part of the InMobi group.
Yeah. So I have a quick question for you over here, which is how does this fit into Jio's overall investment play? Because there've been a bunch of announcements, everything from Dunzo to now Glance. They really seem to be picking up
Yeah.
companies faster than before. At least the pace seems to have accelerated. So where do you think Glance fits into the grander scheme of things?
I think it's interesting to see how this becomes their ad network, right? Because if you look at the tie-up they've done with, let's say, Roposo, they're almost like a content network that you can kind of plug, brands and ads into. With the Collective Artist tie-up with Glance Collective, you're looking at the creator economy, like influencers and what you can kind of put into that. So Geo
Yeah.
kind of can almost like plug into an entire pipeline of saying, okay, there's YouTube and there is Facebook, or rather there's Google and there's Facebook, but is there a way to kind of plug into this and kind of scale it up as you go to other markets? That I think that might be the play. Could also be an interesting way for Geo to scale outside of India as well. If Glance is in other markets, is there a way for the Geo network to suddenly not just be an Indian one? It could be a global one in that sense. So I kind of saw in this, but makes sense. They can drive a lot of ad revenue by just being a part of this.
Yeah, and I think that's also interesting because, Geo's focus hasn't ever been ad revenue as such.
Mm.
Their focus has always been using sort of like technology as a way to really unlock the power of commerce that Geo has, right? Or like
Mm.
the Reliance Group at large has. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to see them tapping into a model that, at least for someone like me, seems a little outside of their general sort of like area of focus, or at least area of
Yeah.
monetization. But InMobi, which is Glance's holding company, quote unquote,
Yeah.
has been doing phenomenally well. I think their revenues, and we can pull up numbers, but their revenues have been growing fairly tremendously in a very, very complicated market. That also advertising, they really seem to carve a niche for themselves, right? And they're one of the few companies that has been able to put up a fight against the Facebook, Googles, etc. of the world through their multi, region sort of like strategy and approach. So good on Glance, and I'm
Yeah.
interested to see how Geo sort of puts pieces of their chessboard together with this.
Yeah. And just one piece right here that Glance is available in multiple languages. So I think that's also an interesting thing for kind of Geo to tap into. You can target different kinds of user bases and can almost like scale up content. You can push content to people. And I feel Geo is always trying to find ways to push content to people. I think maybe it's not just advertising. I think it's also a content push to people and kind of
Yeah.
send. Imagine you get the IPL and you push it to people to their lock screen through Glance.
Yeah.
Imagine
But I
that.
wonder what happens to all the other guys, because like Roposo is a short form bet. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And we,
Yeah.
like last week, we just discussed MX Takata getting acquired by Moj.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
wonder, like in this grander sort of scheme of,
Fair point.
short form video content creation, local content, regional content, etc. I wonder where all this stacks up. But I guess
That's
we'll have
actually a
to
valid point.
wait and watch.
Yes. Speaking of wait and watch, what did you have next?
Oh my God, did you see Gehraiya?
No, I haven't watched it yet. I love the music though.
Yeah.
I've been tripping on the music for a while. I semi get what it's a kind of genre which I like, but I only watch movies which are slightly darker at specific points of time in my life.
Yeah.
Right now, I want to watch happy stuff. I don't want to watch anything dark or things. So, actually, although I did watch Reacher, which is a great show on Amazon Prime, just like time pass. But sorry, here I am. What you saw it? What do you think about
Yes.
it?
So, similar to you, like usually my genre of like television is like trash or like, reality based stuff. So, for example, like Inventing Anna, Tinder Swindler, all of this shit is like right up my alley. Gehraiya, I don't know. One, I haven't seen like, I literally haven't seen a movie, from top to bottom in very long. I definitely haven't seen a Hindi movie, in the longest time. You're totally right. The soundtrack was great. Deepika Padukone, by the way, looks so unbelievably beautiful. It is like not even funny. And also, like, the cast
Yes.
is a breath of fresh air, because apart from her, everyone else is pretty like fresh
New.
off the block. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
is probably their
Second,
I
third
don't
movie of
know, but
sorts. Yeah.
yeah,
So
but
yeah.
they haven't got as much limelight as they have got before.
Yeah.
So I thought the casting was pretty interesting. Like it was a really nice high-low mix, so to speak.
Wow.
Yeah, so, but, I think the problem with the genre is there is such little of this which is generally available to an Indian customer, especially on OTT platforms. So I think I can understand why this movie was confusing. Like even for me, it was a very, very confusing movie, right? Because you don't expect, at least like, and maybe I'm a auntie, but like, you don't expect like Hindi movies to be as like dark,
Nuanced.
depressing, and nuanced, right? For the lack of a
Yeah.
better word, as Gehraiya turned out to be. But
Have you seen any of Shakun Patra's older movies? Have you seen any
no,
of them? So have you
what
seen
are his
Kapoor and
older movies?
Sons? Kapoor and
No,
Sons. Oh,
no.
so he's done Kapoor and Sons before this, and before that, I forget. I think it was Ek Mein or Ek Tu, which was
Yeah.
Kareena and Imran Khan way back in the day. So he's
Yeah.
a self-professed fan of Woody Allen, Wes Anderson. He comes from that school where just the way the movies flow, lots of chaos, but also like really like you need to get certain undertones and stuff like that. Kapoor and Sons obviously did really well. So here's my take on any movie which has so much spoken about it, right? You have people who loved it. You have people
Yeah.
who absolutely hating on it. There are memes happening around it. When you go this like different directions, you've done what you have to do. I feel that that is exactly what a movie like this should do, because if it didn't strike a conversation, everybody say, it was a nice movie, then you'll forget about it. People
Yeah.
aren't
Yeah.
forgetting about the movie after it's come out. They're still talking about it. I've seen many people on Twitter reply to others and say, I know that you didn't get it, but people didn't get Tamasha too. And Tamasha is like one of those movies which didn't do well when it came out, but is by far one of the best movies in Indian cinema in recent
Hmm.
decades. And people now swear by it. So
Yeah.
there are different parties here, but I feel that the fact that it's striking, it's bringing about so much conversation, I think is
Yeah. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. No,
Also, it's not,
100%.
I'm guessing it's not a dumb movie, is what I'm gathering.
No, not at all. I think,
Mm.
I think it's so interesting because, like, as usual in typical Indian fashion, there's been a lot
Mm.
of like shaming that's gone Deepika Padukone's way, right? Saying,
Yeah,
oh my
yeah,
God, you're a married woman. How can you have so many intimate scenes with, like other men? So there's a lot of that which is disgusting and
yeah.
appalling because, we're in 2022 now and you'd
But you're not
assume,
surprised, are you?
I mean, I'm not
It's terrible to
surprised,
say
but
it, but you're not surprised, is how I put it. Like, I always hear these things. I'm like, why is this even a thing? And you're like,
hmm, hmm.
because this is how people seem to still talk.
Yeah, but like it's also like, I mean, it's cinema, dude. And like Deepika Padukone's shtick has not, I mean, she's not Katrina Kaif, you know what I mean? Like her
Yeah,
shtick hasn't been like, I am like cute girl next door, right? Like she's
yeah.
always kind of like pushed the envelope with the kind of work that she's done in the past. I think the thing that was obviously like sadder to see over here is one of the writers, Sumit Roy, his dad posted a very sweet, tweet saying, please go watch my son's movie. I'm forgetting if the dad was Sumit Roy or the writer was Sumit Roy. So basically, Sumit Roy's dad posted this very sweet, tweet. He got destroyed on Twitter, like
Mm.
destroyed. Like people came after him with all kinds of crap saying, your son sucks and what is this crap that your son has made and this, that, and the other.
This is the
And in
problem.
fact, our guest, Karthik Srinivasan, Beast of
Mm.
Troll, wrote this really, really good, post on how it's just like, damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? And how, like, just
Which is
the
also why
joy of,
people make what is called Masi, but really like dumbed down movies, because they don't. Some people don't want this conversation, but I feel that someone like a Shagun Patra wants this conversation. I think he'll be very
yeah,
happy that this is the kind of conversation around the movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. And I guess all publicity is good publicity.
But what it's done, though, interestingly, there's another movie that came out this weekend. I know that this week we seem to be talking about movies a lot. Badhai, though, which is a
Hmm.
fabulous movie, has
Is
just
it
is
related
in
to Badhai
theaters.
Ho?
It's obviously a spin from that series of sorts, but it's great. I mean, I don't want to give up. I mean, some things are obvious, but basically, it's about two people who get married who are generally not interested in the opposite sex. Because they don't want to tell the outside world of sorts. So it's dealt with very sensitive. It's a fabulous movie. So, and also that's what's happened, right? Suddenly you have this movie which has gone nuance.
Hmm.
That one's gone massy, but has spoken about a very sensitive subject. And so one spin has also been the fact that, okay, look at that, how good that movie is. But I'm like, why compare? Just watch what you want to watch. I don't get why people get so touchy about movies. It's a movie, it's a show, like you said. Like,
Yeah,
watch it. You
get
don't
over
want to watch
it.
it, don't watch it.
Yeah, I agree.
Speaking of don't watch it, so we're going to take a break and be right back to Think Fast.
Namaste, this is Cyrus Brocha. I am part of the government cancel culture program to remove rubbish off all the different streams available. So what we have is all the collected rubbish we put together on our show. It's called Cyrus Says. It's on IVM Podcast. You have to watch it and listen to it. It's on our app. It's on our website. It's on the YouTube channel. It's on Facebook. There are many different ways. Don't bother me and ask me how. You have to find out. We talk to different personalities. Many of them are known. Some are just people we meet downstairs and invite them up for chai. But the point is, it's fun and it's very therapeutic. So please join in and listen to Cyrus Says.
Welcome back to Think Fast, where we are entering the metaverse. Or is it? Is it the metaverse? No, it's the Pujaverse. Yes, that's my next topic. What is the Pujaverse, Suchita? Do you know what it is? What is it?
No, school me, Varun, school me.
So Puja Entertainment, the production company behind all the number one movies, all your Hero number one, Coolie number one, all the like
Basically,
Badi
like
Miyan, Choti Miyan,
Govinda's endorsers.
all of those movies, also the new Govinda-ish movies with all these things coming back with Varun Dhawan playing what Govinda played before. So they've purchased $5,000 worth of land in the metaverse, and it's called the Pujaverse now. They purchased from a company
Jeez
called Crypto
Louise.
Voxels,
Oh my
and which is
God.
supposed to be a virtual world and metaverse built on the Ethereum blockchain. Now, the interesting part here is that it's run by Deepshika Deshmukh and Jackie Bagnani. They're trying to push a narrative saying, okay, they're taking this production company to the next stage of things. I think, if I read this right, that they announced a trailer of their Bade Mia Chote Mia new version is coming back with Akshay Kumar and Tiger Shroff. It's a nice teaser. I'm a
Oh
massive
my
Bollywood watcher, so I
God.
enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. Where yeah, let's watch it. You should. I'm going to send you these links. You have to watch these things. You got to get
Okay,
with
but
the.
but please help me understand why have they launched Pujaverse? They will release movies in
They launched the
Pujaverse? Like,
trailer inside the Pujaverse.
Jesus, so how do I ghuso into Pujaverse? Like, do I do like a
You
quick
go
Google
inside and
search?
you watch it on a screen inside the Pujaverse. That's the whole point.
Jeez Louise.
It's interesting that this is Bollywood's getting into it. I'm telling you, Bhaiverse is coming. Bhaiverse is coming. And what I'm excited about is imagine
Please.
Rohit Shetty buys land and he takes his cop trilogy and cars are flying in the metaverse. It's
Oh
going to be
my
called. It's going
God.
to be amazing. This is chaos waiting to happen. But what are your thoughts on this? Bollywood has entered the metaverse.
I don't know, man. I feel like I am like, I'm trying to make actually the one question that I have is I wonder how much of
You're
this is being
speechless.
I really am. I'm just like of everything I thought Bollywood would do. I mean, to be fair, someone also launched Bolly Coin, which was a total
Hmm.
scam. But like, I wonder, like, if are these guys being paid by Facebook to like join in?
No,
Because you know what I mean, like the way you pay creators, right, or
so
like
here's my
influencers.
thought on it. My
Hmm.
thought: how traditionally a lot of Bollywood movies have promoted themselves is by trying interesting gimmicks, right?
Yeah.
Like we've done a lot of that in the past. Early days of Glitch, our primary clients were movie studios. So if you had a horror movie, like we would launch a Chrome plugin where your screen would become dark. This is before dark mode was a thing. So Bollywood has traditionally always used gimmicks around movie promotions.
Yeah.
So like we've done a lot of that in the past in the early days of Glitch, where we would for movie promotions like suddenly have like Chrome plugins where like a horror element should come into your browser because it's a horror
Yeah. Yeah.
movie
Yeah.
promotion and all
Yeah.
that stuff, right? I think this is an interesting way to kind of jump onto that to build a narrative. I don't know if I mean, this one is just literally like, you creating a theater like experience inside the metaverse, which might
Hmm.
just seem like, okay, that's random. But I'm interested to see how can someone actually use this in an interesting way? Can you be part of a movie experience in
Hmm.
the future while you're plugged in whichever form the metaverse kind of happens? I think this one is a little like, okay, fresh off, like, okay, let's just use this as a promotion vehicle. But
Yeah.
what I find interesting is that what will someone do which could be interesting?
Yeah.
Because people are doing live concerts, are doing live events in the
Yeah, yeah.
metaverse
Justin
globally.
Bieber did some live concert in the metaverse,
Yeah,
and a couple of other musicians have also picked it up. I think right now a lot of it is trial and error. And if you think about it, for
yeah,
the amount of money that they spent on this, it's really like chump change, right? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
they
$5,000
bought
is what?
land 5 lakhs or whatever, like,
Yeah,
yeah, close to 5 lakhs. I don't know, but I think for the amount of money that they spent on it, this is like cheaper than buying 2 billboards. So
yeah,
in the
yeah,
grander scheme of things, it's an interesting experiment. I think obviously
yeah.
the question that I have around this is like scalability of it, right? Because
Mm,
like it may be cool, but to be honest, none of this content at least hit me on Twitter or like
yeah,
my news feeds. You know what I mean? Like I didn't really
yeah,
see it break into
yeah,
mainstream, which is what you would expect gimmicky, quote unquote,
yeah, yeah,
campaigns to do.
yeah.
And all of that effort to show me a trailer, I mean, like, dude, at least make the experience
Yeah.
interesting. You know what I mean? Like, get
What is
Tiger Shroff
interesting
to
though
jump
is
around.
I just spotted this part of the article that where I read this one. It said that Daler Mehndi became the first Indian musician to perform using an entirely digital avatar in the virtual world. It was hosted on Party Night, which calls itself
Wow.
India's own metaverse. Wow! I want to see like Tunak 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 in like metaverse. That's now you're talking. Now
Oh
you're
my
talking.
God.
You
Yeah,
want to
no,
play
but
my
Bollywood
jam?
really seems to be jumping on this like NFT plus metaverse train with, apparently Bollywood stars like Salman Khan and Amitabh Bachchan who've been
Yeah.
selling their NFTs. A T series apparently is also doing something in
Uh,
metaverse. So definitely a space to, catch up on. To a topic that I understand because it is IRL and not like in Mark Zuckerberg's Ethereum, blah blah bullshit, which is Cult Fit and Mama's have been making some major bets. Cult Fit
mm,
just acquired a Gold's Gym, and they
yeah.
acquired the franchise. So I think there's about 140 gyms that are now going to roll into the Cult Fit, sort of scope of management. Culfit obviously has been on an acquisition spree. They've been acquiring a lot of like cardio equipment brands. We spoke about their acquisition of Tread, which is like a fitness startup. They've been acquiring bike brands and this, that, and the
Yeah.
other. And the other interesting thing, obviously, is Mama Earth has acquired B Blunt. Just to clarify,
Mm.
they've acquired the hair product business of B Blunt, not their salon chains, which will continue to operate as an independent entity. Continuing to play into their house of brand strategy. So, what do you
Yeah.
make of this Cult Fit acquisition? Because this isn't their first. They acquired Fitness First as well back in 2018.
So Gold's Gym has kind of lost its sheen over, especially in
I
India,
mean, all
over
gyms
a
have,
period of
dude.
time, right?
Like,
Yeah.
especially thanks
So
to
Gold
COVID.
Gym still in the US and all that stuff is still pretty strong. Obviously, the CrossFit boxes took a lot of that away, but it's still like one of those old school names that has kind of lasted somehow. But I agree, it's fully gone down in that sense. But I think the interesting one is the Mamaearth one because I feel there's more to this because obviously Godrej had invested a lot of money into B Blunt. I don't think they acquired it, but I think that they put I think so 40% is what I think they owned of B Blunt, the hairstyling product business, and that entire part, along with I think it's 100% sell off to
Yeah,
Honasa consumer
Honasa.
is what I
Yeah,
yeah. And I think that's interesting. Almost like you move the entire thing out of Godrej to Mamaearth
yeah,
because I haven't heard too much about the Big Blend products. I remember when the initial deal happened, there was a lot of like stuff happening. There were ads running. There was a lot of this thing, and slowly you stopped seeing enough of that, except for in the salon. So maybe in some ways also Godrej kind of like leading things off and pushing it onto a
yeah.
newer brand. That's what I kind of felt a little bit.
Yeah. It seemed a little like, siphoning off, not siphoning off, that's the wrong word, but basically like letting go of,
Yeah,
slow performing assets.
yeah,
And if you think about it, dude, the expertise and the capability that it takes to run an offline salon chain is very different from what it takes to like sell products not just at
agree.
the salon chain, but also, in general trade, modern trade, as well as even e-commerce, right? And you definitely haven't seen B Blunt make that much of an impact. I don't know what the revenue numbers are at right now, but you haven't, like, they don't pop up as much as Head and Shoulders or, I
Mm,
mean, obviously those are very large companies, but you don't even see them break into, like popular parlance. I don't necessarily even see influencers, pushing out B Blunt related products. I think, keeping the context of the acquisition aside, I really like what Mamaearth's doing over here because, hair
mm,
care has usually been bundled into skincare, and skincare hair care is usually thought of as a bundle. So, for example, Mamaearth already has hair oils, they already have shampoos and conditioners, but that they've picked up a hair care focused product, I
mm.
find very, very interesting. And it seems like they're kind of using this to either enter the territory of Wow Science,
Yeah,
which,
yeah,
whose products are again largely focused on hair.
yeah.
Hair as a segment is again fairly interesting because it's a 6,000 crore industry. Again, it's an industry which obviously is dominated by your, large FMCG-ish players. Mama's been able to already make a dent in that through, their breakthrough product, which was that onion oil that has, caught all the traction and saw the likes of even Marico say, hey, this is serious business and, we need to figure out our spin on this new ingredient that, Mama Earth has popularized. So I think what's definitely interesting here is Mama Earth's focus on hair care as a market in isolation versus like bundling hair care into the larger sort of piece of Mama Earth. And also B Blunt is a premium brand. It's not a brand that
Mm.
it's not a masstige brand. It is a brand that is thought of as
Like a
it
salon,
has.
like how Tresemme, I guess, with Unilever is sort of.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly. Or like, Keristas, right? Like
yeah.
that's a lot of what the positioning has been. But I think if there's anyone who knows how to scale, it is Mama Earth. So more than anything else, I think this is a great move for B Blunt because, they may have figured out supply chain, product line, this, that, or the other, but the real scaling of this, I don't think anyone knows as well as the Mama Earth guys.
And you know what else I think Mamaearth gets out of this, and which is interesting because if you go to a salon these days, and if you see what Enrich Salons is doing as they've kind of scaled out, is suddenly Enrich is launching like this large product lines on shelves inside the salon, which is not just a few products. Suddenly the shelf space is increased, so it's great for Mamaearth to even put their products on shelves in every single B Blunt. Even I know it's not they haven't bought into the salon business, but
Yeah.
because they're going to be pushing this, it might almost be a win-win for them in that sense as well. They suddenly get so much more shelf space. They can expand that part out. I'm
Yeah.
looking at Enrich primarily because I've been seeing that a lot as I visited malls again. in the last couple of months, I'm suddenly seeing this one, what is a generally like mid-level or if not like expanding salon business, suddenly having entire areas just with products across the board. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see how they use that as well.
Yeah, and on like the Culfit and Gold's Gym acquisition, I don't know. I'm a little confused. Their strategy seems to be like very confusing. Like it seems like they want to build a fitness brand,
Yeah.
right? But like they're doing gyms and then they're also doing D2C. And like obviously there was a spin-off of like, Eat Fit from Cult. And
Yeah.
Cult is focused, only on the more like equipment fitness, scheme of things.
Their apparel is actually not half bad. I tried some recently. I tried some of their like activewear and stuff like that.
What
Very
brand
nice
do
quality.
they sell? What's the brand called?
It comes under the Cult Fit brand itself. If you go to the
Interesting.
Cult Fit app, you actually can buy like I tried the sneakers, I tried the tracks and the t-shirt, all like really nice, like well made quality. I was talking to the team there as well, saying I was
Hmm.
quite impressed with just like general, because you normally would assume, because I've tried some of the other brands which are in this space and they haven't been best of quality. But this
Yeah.
one I was surprised as to how nice it was. So I guess there's something happening there. I agree with you. I don't get this gym deal primarily. I
Yeah,
think
because it's
also
kind of like they want to become a decathlon, but with
mm,
gyms. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Which is like
yeah,
throwing me off. But I mean, dude, Mukesh Bansal is a gangster. So
yeah.
I'm sure he knows more than you and I do. And we will see
Yes.
how things unfurl.
Speaking of someone who knows what they're doing,
The Rock,
Dwayne The Rock
Dwayne
Johnson
Johnson.
is building the fastest growing tequila brand of all time. It's a great Twitter thread. I think it will be interesting if you can actually drop this in the show notes for people to check out. Nathan Baugh, if I pronounce his last name right, put this up. Basically, what it talks about is that you obviously had a lot of celebrities build liquor brands, right? You obviously had Conor McGregor had a $600 million exit with Proper 12. Rand
Casa
Reynolds sold
Amigos.
Casamigos $1 billion exit for George Clooney, $610 million exit for Aviation Gin and Ryan Reynolds. With tequila, what Dwayne Johnson kind of did is he obviously did a tie-up with a family in Mexico and obviously started off as a small batch tequila in that sense the word. But
Mm-hmm.
when 2020 happened and you couldn't go through traditional, ways to market and sell it out there, he started something on his Instagram, which he called Terrimana Tuesdays. I
Yeah.
remember I was a little irritated because suddenly I followed Dwayne Johnson actively on Instagram and I'm like, why is he only putting stuff up with tequila on his feed?
Hmm.
But people seem to be having a lot of fun. He involved people in this where people who just like live, he's having tequila with thousands of people on Facebook and Instagram every week on Tuesday, right? And he doesn't drink tequila like a normal person. He drinks tequila like they could assume the Rock would, because the entire glass is filled with tequila and he's just drinking it. But
Yeah.
that really pushed up a lot of it, suddenly gave it like so much voice, and suddenly Terrimana is like the first name you think of. Like I can't think of another name. Like I've been
Hmm.
waiting for it to come to India the same way I was waiting for Project Rock to launch in India with Under Armour. But that's really scaled sales for them. And if you look at it, I'm just looking at what details he's put in this thread. He says that Casamigos, the George Clooney tequila, was doing 170,000 cases per year in 2017. It was acquired for $1 billion.
Hmm.
The Dwayne Johnson one is doing 1 million cases. So if you look at this, the difference in just size, it's massive in terms of it.
Madness.
And they've just done a
10x.
tie-up with Jägermeister for a global expansion piece. So yeah, The Rock knows how to sell tequila, and where he's just partner. I think the three takeaways Nathan's put on here is saying partner with great people, trust your instincts, which is basically use your reach, and
Yeah.
distribution. It's a great. I think it's a great case study in just kind of using your reach as a
Yeah.
not just celebrity creator, whatever, to really be able to sell a brand.
Yeah, and it's not just him, right? You've even seen Kendall Jenner launch her
Yeah.
tequila brand called, 818. And again, tequila I think, is going to be the gin of the next 2 years, because even in India, there are two brands as Desmond G,
That's
which
what
is,
I
I mean,
drink.
they're not tequila,
That's what I
yeah,
drink, man.
same here. Agave brands. Yeah, so there's Desmond G, and the other one is Pistola that just launched, again, both, Goa based sort of like enterprises. So I think the space of like tequila plus agave is getting fairly interesting.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, it almost seems like most well architected companies within tequila as a space end up doing well. That history is repeating itself with Casamigos, and now his growth, and obviously Kendall Jenner's spin on like 818 and her, or it's, I mean, Kendall Jenner positions everything in a slightly bougie-ish way. And the problem, I think, with the general Kardashian clan is they advertise and sponsor too many products too often. But I really, really like this. And it goes back to like so many conversations we've had about creators, right? Where when you're thinking of building a brand, you don't have to put your name on it. It doesn't have to be called, like the tequila brand is not called The Rock, right? Though it could have very well been called On the Rocks, and like moved fairly well, just given the association with Dwayne Johnson. But I think what I really love with this is that it's almost like the creator is keeping the brand separate. Also, the creator, from the looks of it, isn't going into like business and execution, because alcohol world over is a complicated business. It's a business that has severe amounts of regulation, and it's also a business which, whether someone likes it or not, is one on distribution. And unless you're not a master of distribution, crushing it in this category is like not going to happen. So it seems like he's got
and now
all
he has an
the
energy drink, which is Zoa Energy, which seems to be doing well as well. There's also Project Rock, this thing. Like Jay-Z said, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman.
I just want to let you know I've used that line on the show already. So no,
Fine,
but
fine.
jokes aside, this is it's like I'm just waiting for this magic to happen in India. Just like quick
What would
question
I
for you over
launch as a
here.
brand? Tell me, what would I launch? Considering I want to follow in Dwayne Johnson's footsteps. What should I launch?
We've already discussed this
Don't say
bunch of
adult
times, bro.
diapers.
Uh, oh my God, what is that thing that old people wear who don't have teeth? Dentures.
Dentures.
There you go. Biotin
That's what.
gummies. You should do that, bro. Ghane ghane
Biotin
balon ka
gummies.
raz. Ghane
Yes.
balon
Gummy
ka
balon
raz.
ka
There
raz.
you
Gummy
go.
balon ka raz.
Oh my
That's
God. Or
okay.
like
So before I digress further into this, thank you, Ansh, one of the team
beard
on
oil.
that said beard oil. Yes, I should launch a beard oil. Maybe I should do more content on like male grooming. It's time to do those things. Put myself out there. But before
Yes.
I go further down this rabbit hole, time for our last break, and we'll come back for recommendation. This has been a nice. We've been fast. You have thought well,
Yes. Oh
but it's
my
still
God,
been.
Varun, you
Yes.
haven't babbled.
I have not
Wow.
babbled. I've been to
Vastaj.
the clock. And so before I do babble and talk about not babbling, we'll take our last break and we'll be right back with recommendations.
Don't you think that if everyone around you is getting smart, you better be smarter? Hey there, I'm the traveling professor Siddharth Deshmukh, and I'm back with season 2 of my podcast to make you smarter. Smarter with Sid. What's this season's focus about? Well, it's about 10-minute nuggets that will make you stand out at work. It's time to go from smart to smarter. Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday and become smarter with Sid.
Welcome back to Think Fast, where we've actually thought and spoken fast this week. Or rather, I have. I know you've always been generally faster and more thoughtful. I have been less random, but I have still spoken about Dwayne Johnson and
in the right
Pooja
context, though. So hat tip
Yes.
to you in the right context.
Yes. Please buy my
But now
book.
it's
It's
time
right there at
for.
the back.
But now
Recommendations.
it's time for. I am talking over Varun while he plugs his book for the 600th time, ladies and gents.
Buy my book. Buy my
600th time.
merchandise. I have lovely T-shirts and hoodies and all that stuff. Please buy my merch. My link is in my Instagram. I can share it anywhere you guys want. But it's lots of fun.
Okay, but let's get to the last segment, which is recommendations. Are you recommending your merch?
While I recommend you buy my book and you recommend you buy my merch and all that stuff, I'm going to do some giveaways. But for that, come to my Instagram. I actually want to recommend a YouTube channel I discovered, which is by this guy called John Coogan. He's the co-founder of a couple of companies. But basically, what he does on this YouTube channel is he really digs deep into stuff in the business space. So he'll do videos on how Microsoft might have just killed Zuckerberg's metaverse, or why billionaires love Mr. Beast. So it's very interesting how he's taking very Silicon Valley, but creator economy tech pieces, even stuff on what's happening in not just the metaverse, but Web3 and everything else. Very nicely made videos. He's distilled down really well. So yeah, check out John Coogan on YouTube. A great channel to follow. Just I've binged a bunch of videos over the last 2 days.
Lovely. My recommendation is going to be short and sweet, which is this excellent book called Becoming Trader Joe's by Joe Colomb. For those who don't know, I'm obsessed with Trader Joe's model. They have the highest sales per square feet in the US, or at least they did in the last article I read about them back in 2017. But phenomenal business that they've been able to build themselves up despite a Walmart is like no joke. Despite a Walmart, Costco, Whole Foods, and obviously then Amazon's takeover Whole Foods. For folks who are interested in B2C, brand launching, marketplace, consumer, anything, the amount of strategic insights you will get from Trader Joe's story is like not a joke. It's an excellent book, and it's a masterclass on how to really think customer first and also make nuanced bets that lead to long-term ROI. So for those of you who love retail, who love brands, who are in FMCG, highly, highly, highly recommend Becoming Trader Joe's. I haven't finished the book. I'm halfway through, but just a spectacular read on GTM and strategy and defensibility over a long period of time.
And that's it. That's the end of the episode. This is our fastest episode yet. This new format is amazing. If you let us know if you like this format, you can tweet to us, you can DM us, you can write into IBM, or if you have some negative things to say. Positive things only to us, negative things to IBM, because that's why we have a podcast partner, because they can take the negativity, we take the positivity. And I'm going to go see Tigers now.
Oh my God. Have fun, Varun. Have fun.
What people are worried about is that Varun will be walking through the national park trying to find signal and not realize he's standing on top of a tiger. Is what the family is worried about. But yes, I'm going to.
I hope that doesn't happen. Though I hope if you're standing on top of a tiger, you don't tell him, please buy my book from Amazon and buy my merchandise.
Recommendation: buy my book. It's amazing. It's
there you go, guys. I poked the bear. Yes. On that note, have a good evening, Varun. Enjoy your trip, and I will catch you next week.
Okay, toodles.
Toodles. Bye.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cyrus Says, the cast and crew of Gehraia joins Cyrus in a fun chat about the making of the film. Cyrus talks to Deepika Padukone, Ananya Pandey, Siddhant Chaturvedi, Darya Karwa, and the director Shakun Batra. Kadai Podcast is back with a new story. Venvel Seni is a Tamil podcast done by Kavita Jiva. Find out how Tamil South India stayed independent of Ashoka and the Mauryan Empire. On Paisa Vesa, Anupam discusses finance for informal labor with Gautam Bharadwaj and Parul Shet Khanna, co-founders and directors at Pinbox Solutions. Should assisted dying and euthanasia be legalized? On All Things Policy, the Takshashila folk analyze the Lancet Commission's Value of Death report. And on the Filter Coffee podcast with Karthik Nagarajan, freelance journalist Priyanka Pula sheds light on the drug regulation problems in India. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. The word of mouth really helps. Also, don't forget to rate us on whatever platform you're listening to us, and check us out on YouTube. You can check a list of all of our channels at ivmpodcast.com/YouTube. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Bank of Baroda and HDFC Life Insurance. Thank you so much for making this possible.
If you're a cricket fan, check out Edges and Sledges, India's favorite cricket podcast.
The podcast focuses on Indian cricket, the IPL, and has a ton of banter both on and off the field.
We talk about the week's biggest cricket stories with current and ex-international cricketers, coaches, or sometimes just between us.
And it's hosted by me, DJ.
Me, Varun.
And me, Ashwin.
New episodes release every week.
You can catch us on the IVM Podcast's website, app,
or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Check out the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast.